Hi everyone. It is currently Monday, September 23rd, 2019, and you are tuning into the Five Starr Wrestling Report. This is the YouTube show devoted to bringing you the best list of wrestling news, discussions, topics, opinions, and recaps regarding all pro wrestling content. Be it from WWE, AEW, MLW, New Japan, ROH, Impact Wrestling, whatever the big topics are, I cover them on this channel. We have 2 uploads every week. We have our Monday show, which is the one you are tuning in for right now, and it's the show that covers the big news topics and weekend events. I will share the items of business and then give you my feedback or opinions on the matter if I have one. And we also have the Friday show, which is the review series portion of the FSWR channel, where every week we recap MLW Fusion and NXT on USA. And this coming October, added to that list will be the All Elite Wrestling Dynamite program. Before we jump in, if you are interested in keeping posted with this channel in the future, first of all, thank you. And second of all, to keep updated, you probably all know the drill by now in 2019. It's not like YouTube was created yesterday. Subscribe, click on that little bell icon to be notified of any uploads on the channel this week, or next week, or the week after, or the week after that. Again, that's twice a week we have uploads. And also, if you would be so kind as to give this video a like, and share some of your feedback on any of the topics covered in the video here. It'd be great to hear from everyone and see how my opinions compare to everyone else's. It also might show just how off base I might be with some of these topics. I got a lot of ground to cover this week, and my voice is not all there right now. It's currently 10:30 in the morning. I woke up couple hours ago, but we're still in that developmental process of regaining the whole voice. I'm slurping on a bit of coffee here just to, keep my throat working, but we'll see how that goes. We all know that coffee causes a lot of phlegm. Perhaps I should be drinking water, but nonetheless, we're going to get on into this video. Hopefully by elaborating on some of this stuff, it'll give my voice a chance to really escalate. Well, I guess we should start with one of the hotter topics from last week, and that is the fallout to NXT's debut on the USA Network. According to the report from Paul Fontaine at Wrestling Observer, the much-hyped live debut of NXT on USA Network averaged 1.179 million viewers. NXT did not finish inside the top 20 in terms of total cable TV viewers, but did land fourth in the 18 to 49 demo with a .43 rating. NXT retained almost 60% of SmackDown's viewers from Tuesday night. So, depending on your preliminary expectations of how the first NXT show would do on USA, you can be the judge of whether or not this is good news or bad news. If you were going in expecting a rating below 1.0, you probably thought this was a fairly big success for WWE. The key in all of this, as I think most people would agree, is A, maintaining that 1.1 over a period of time, and B, maintaining or exceeding the 1.1 over AEW on October 2nd. The thing that we have to remember is that, historically, TV debuts often score above average ratings. Be it from casual audience viewing or the initial intrigue from a particular market of fans. So if we're comparing this rating, 6 months to a year down the road, we'll be able to determine then whether or not the 1.1 means anything. The other determining factor to judge how much the rating means is how it fares up against AEW's first and subsequent shows on TNT. Because USA still holds a slight viewership advantage over TNT in that all-important 18 to 49 demo, gives WWE a little bit of an edge over AEW in the short term. As of December of last year, a report from The Deadline states that in the 2018 basic cable ratings of the 18 to 49 demo, USA beats TNT with 0.59 million viewers over 0.56 million viewers. It is also the 13th consecutive year that USA has won the ratings battle amongst that key demographic of TV viewers. So, we're still in a little bit of a holding pattern when it comes to judging the true success of NXT's pilot episode on the USA. As a kickstart rating, I think they should be proud. But until we have the ability to do a short-term and long-term side-by-side comparison against AEW Dynamite, the only thing we have to go off right now is WWE did above a 1.0, which, while it might seem like a shocker to some people, I think most people expected them to do somewhere in the ballpark of a 1.0 to 1.2. This came out on Saturday morning following the initial PW Insider report. In one of the more updated reports that I could find from Andrew Ravens over at Wrestling News, WWE Hall of Famer Hacksaw Jim Duggan was hospitalized on Friday. PW Insider reports that it's due to medical issues. As of this writing, there's no word yet on the reason. This comes after almost a year when Duggan was sent to an intensive care unit in South Carolina. Last November, he was hospitalized when his heart went into AFIB, irregular heartbeat. This led to him going in for a planned heart procedure in late March. And I wish I had more to say on the matter right now, but it looks like everything is still up in the air. Apparently, Duggan had reported with Wrestling Inc. following his procedure in March that everything was fine and they had reset his heart rhythm back to normal. I'm not sure what exactly caused Duggan's initial patterns of irregular heartbeat, be it stress, an imbalance in sodium or potassium levels, maybe an undiagnosed artery clog. It could be any number of different things. And I wasn't able to really find a report out there that talked about the first incident in November last year. Just a bunch of reports that he was okay following surgery. So, I'm sure we'll get an update on the matter pretty soon, but it's hard to judge what the cause was this go-around. It is good to know that he seems to be doing fine. It's always scary when you read reports about wrestlers being hospitalized for unknown reasons, especially the ones that are up there in age. Hopefully it's not anything too severe, which doesn't seem like it is, but you never know. So we got a couple of news bulletins regarding AEW that I wanted to quickly share, including an update on their current card for their TNT debut on October 2nd, as well as the announcement of the brackets for the AEW Tag Title Tournament. And I'm going to start with the October show because there are a couple things I want to address with that first. So here's the card for what they are now referring to their TV show as Dynamite. We have Cody versus Sammy Guevara, Rio versus Nyla Rose for the AEW Women's Championship, MJF versus Brandon Cutler, the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega versus Chris Jericho, and 2 mystery partners. As far as the women's title match goes, I've pretty much said my piece on the matter during my AEW All Out recap from a few weeks back. If you want to check that out, it's episode 7 of the 5 Starr Wrestling Report. My nutshell summary of the matter is that it still feels like AEW is pushing for the politically correct story of Nyla Rose as the first ever transgender athlete/champion just for the sake of publicity. And as I said in that episode, while I completely understand why they're going this route, and while it gives AEW a platform to make history with a culturally relevant story, the whole thing just reeks of promotional exploitation as opposed to featuring the best possible talents for the spot. And I just look at Rio versus Nyla Rose on paper, and the question I just keep asking myself over and over again is this really the best AEW can come up with? Of all the female talent they have signed right now, this is their feature attraction to crown their inaugural women's champion? I'm sure this might have not been the first choice for them. I know that Kylie Rae was pretty big on their radar when they brought her in, and Then the stuff happened with her where she ended up asking for her release. So maybe she was slated for this spot, but we don't really know. But we do know that their alternative to the Kylie Ray situation, it doesn't really hold up. And the problem here is that this match is going to go up against Shayna Baszler versus Candice LeRae for the NXT Women's title on the same show. A match with much more story intrigue and way more likely to deliver in the ring. It's going to be really interesting to do a side-by-side comparison of how these matches do on TV. Because I can tell you right now, and again, I want to stress, this has nothing to do with Nyla Rose being transgender. This has everything to do with my personal intrigue. I'm far more gravitated toward Candice and Shayna than I am Riho and Nyla. As a match, as a story, as potential fallout, Candice LeRae versus Shayna just has a lot more going for it than Riho versus Nyla. The Cody-Sammy Guevara match is also very interesting to me. They've already announced that they're doing Jericho versus Cody at the Full Gear pay-per-view in November, which, by extension, you would think that it would make all the sense in the world for Cody to go over in this match. But it's not that simple if you think about it. If for no other reason, then Cody going over Guevara clean in the middle of the ring is way too predictable. Plus, when you factor in that this is going to be the first match they air on October 2nd, you'd have to think they'd have something a little more big in store than a simple enhancement match with Cody getting a win over Guevara, which really doesn't do anything for Cody. And Guevara's an interesting talent in the sense that we know he's part of the roster, but we haven't seen him in a lot of featured spots. He's had a couple of showings at the secondary AEW events over the summer, but he's never really been in a prominent role. And then putting Sammy up against the guy who's going to be challenging and probably main eventing the November pay-per-view for the world title hints at the idea that they might find a loophole to put Sammy over Cody. And if AEW has big plans for Sammy Guevara going forward, which it would seem like they do, having him go over Cody in AEW's first match on TNT is a hell of a way to kickstart that push. That all being said, there are a few problems with them doing this. First off, if AEW is going to live up to their moniker that wins and losses matter, then they need to keep the overbooked or DQ countout finishes to a bare minimum. The problem there is that if they just put Sammy over Cody clean, then they basically just devalued their upcoming world title match. Sure, it'd be a huge win for Sammy, and they could use it as a way to build up a story of why Cody doesn't deserve to be the world title contender anymore. But then again, another problem. Number one, nobody buys the idea that Sammy Guevara would be Chris Jericho's first challenger for the world title. And number two, AEW would be issuing false advertising by announcing a world title pay-per-view match 2 months in advance, only to pull out from it and go with something completely different. WWE does this kind of stuff all the time, and it's why fans have become so desensitized to anything having meaning in their product. So they've got a really tight corner they're writing themselves into. If they just have Jericho do a run-in and cost Cody the match, it'll feel more like a writing cop-out than an actual defining moment for Guevara. But if Cody loses, be it clean or with interference, it lessens the value of Cody challenging for the world title, especially because Guevara is nowhere near ready to headline a pay-per-view for the world title. They could do a non-finish or a draw to, make it so that neither guy has to lose. But then you have to wonder, do you really want to do a no contest or a double countout finish in your first ever televised match? I will say that I am looking forward to the match, if not merely for the intrigue of what they might do for a finish. And we have the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega versus Chris Jericho and the two mystery partners. And that's another interesting match. Again, if not for the surprise factor of who Jericho chooses as partners. When they first advertised the match, I think a lot of people were speculating that it would be LAX. And it made a lot of sense considering their recent departures from Impact Wrestling. But then a weird thing happened. They showed up at the All Out show in masks. They jumped the Bucks in Phoenix and Pentagon, but then they just revealed themselves to everyone after the fact. And now that mystery effect doesn't have much stain. I think they missed a golden opportunity to have LAX do the beatdown at the pay-per-view in the masks, but not actually reveal it that it was them. At least that way, they could have left a little bit of speculation heading into the TV show. Like, yeah, most people would assume it's Santana and Ortiz, but we'd have to wait for the TV show to see the big reveal. If Jericho just brings out Santana and Ortiz for that six-man, it's going to be way too predictable. They may as well just announce all the participants now and scrap the mystery partner deal. I think the match will be a lot of fun. I remember really liking that Omega Bucks six-man tag from whichever summer show they did. It was either Fyter Fest or Fight for the Fallen. I think it was Fyter Fest. So it should be a great main event for the Dynamite program. You'd probably have to think that Cody would get involved in some manner, especially if Jericho gets involved with Cody's match earlier on in the program. So, we'll see what they do. The other AEW bulletin I wanted to cover was the tag title tournament. Like I said, they announced the brackets earlier last week, and here's what we have for quarterfinal matches. You got the Young Bucks versus Private Party, Lucha Bros versus Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus, the Best Friends versus SCU, and the Dark Order getting the bye into the semifinals coming off their big pay-per-view win at All Out. And it's an interesting layout in the sense that depending on who advances in the first round, we could see a couple pay-per-view rematches. If the Bucks beat Private Party and the Lucha Brothers beat Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus, there's a pay-per-view rematch right there. And if the Best Friends beat SCU, they'd be doing a rematch with the Best Friends in the Dark Order in the semifinals. And honestly, it'd be a little lame to do something like that. If I had to venture a guess on how I see things going, I do think the Bucks go over Private Party. Private Party hasn't really been established yet. It's okay to beat them right now. They're not going to be hurt by taking the fall here. I think Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus go over Phoenix and Pentagon. One, again, because I don't think we need to see another Young Bucks Lucha Brothers match right now. And two, and according to a report from Dave Meltzer during the Wrestling Observer last week, Pentagon and Phoenix have an indie booking that interferes with a couple of the dates that these tournament matches are supposed to take place. So I think they might write Pentagon and Phoenix out of the tournament at the beginning so they can avoid having to work around their schedules. I also think SCU beats the Best Friends. Again, I already saw Trent and Chucky against the Dark Order. I wasn't particularly engaged by anything they did in that match. I don't really want to see it again. At that point, I think the Bucks beat Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus in the semifinals. I think the Dark Order beat SCU in the semifinals, much to the chagrin of a lot of people, I presume. And then I think the Bucks beat the Dark Order to win the tournament and the tag titles. Would it be a little anticlimactic for the Bucks to be the inaugural AEW Tag Team Champions? Maybe. But then again, when you look at the 7 teams they're working with in the tournament right now, you don't really have a lot of options. Private Party and the Jurassic Express haven't been established yet. Nobody wants to see the Dark Order win. Trent and Chuck Taylor are just kind of a team that exists right now that leaves SCU, the Bucks, and Pentagon and Phoenix. And if it turns out that Pentagon and Phoenix's latter indie booking dates interfere with the dates for the tournament matches, they're probably going to get eliminated fairly early on. Daniels and Kazarian would make great tag champions. If we learned anything about their tag title run in TNA from years back, they were one of the most entertaining and hottest duos on that entire program. But if you look at the bigger picture and how AEW has featured both of those teams, the Bucks have been given a little more featured spotlight. They're key players in the establishment of the AEW brand. It probably would make the most business sense to have them be the first AEW Tag Team Champions. Again, though, it's all speculation. I mean, they could swerve us all and have the Bucks get eliminated in the first round for all we know. But I don't foresee that happening. I think the Bucks will be the first AEW Tag Champions. Okay, going back to WWE for a sec here, there was a report that came out from Tony Maglio over at The Wrap late last week regarding Fox. Apparently, Fox is planning to air a series of WWE specials prior to the October 4th SmackDown debut. And this is taken from the report here. That weekly series' October 4th broadcast TV debut will immediately be preceded by a half-hour blue carpet special. First up is WWE SmackDown Greatest Hits, which airs from 8 to 9 p.m. Eastern Pacific Time next Friday, 1 week ahead of Fox's SmackDown premiere, and will be hosted by wrestlers Charlotte Flair and The Miz. 2 nights later, John Cena will narrate WWE WrestleMania's legendary moments. The October 4th blue carpet, starting around 7:30 p.m. Eastern, will feature arrivals and backstage access to celebrities and athletes, as well as past and present WWE superstars, to kick off the new era on WWE Fox. So what do you take away from all this? Well, I'll tell you the first thing that jumps out to me when I first read this report. And the article here even briefly mentions it in the opening lines. Fox is absolutely doing everything in their power to present pro wrestling as a big deal. I mean, they're literally throwing out the proverbial red carpet treatment to build anticipation for the SmackDown debut. Only in this case, it's a blue carpet because, SmackDown's main color is blue. So we already know that Fox really cares about bringing professional wrestling to their network, and that's a good thing. It also seems to indicate that they're not holding any further grudge over WWE for the outcome of what happened with NXT going to USA as opposed to Fox. That's also good. The part that worries me, however, is that one fragment from the article regarding the blue carpet show, and I want to read it again because it segues into my next talking point. Past and present WWE superstars to kick off the new era of WWE on Fox. Particularly that word, past. And I think you all can tell where I'm going with this. And it does beg the ultimate question of, what should WWE program for their Fox debut? Well, I think an even better question to that question would be, what shouldn't WWE program for their Fox debut? This is a problem every time WWE does one of their big shows. Instead of primarily featuring their current talent roster to build up some big angles and some big matches, they go into panic mode and flood the show with a bunch of legends and veterans from previous eras in an effort to pop the rating. And the problem every time they do this is that while yes, they might create that initial rating spike for one night, it's not long-standing. Because as much as people will tune in to see guys like Austin and Taker and Foley and Shawn Michaels, what happens once those guys are gone and Raw and SmackDown goes back to featuring its current talent pool? Those same viewers are not tuning in to see those guys. This is a report from Forbes that came out earlier this year following the Raw reunion show. In a table calculating the viewership for WWE's Raw's most viewed broadcast of the last 5 years, 2019 and 2018 calculated the Raw reunion and Raw 25 specials as the highest viewed shows of the entire year at a 3.093 and a 4.530. As of September 23, 2019, no Raw episode this year has topped that Raw reunion rating. And this is always evident of the nostalgia buzz of desensitized wrestling fans. You're the ones that'll tune in to see a couple legends to do angles with the current guys, but because they know it doesn't lead to anything more than 50% of the time, they know that they have no reason to tune in next week to see what happens, because they know nothing is going to happen. And this is why I fret that WWE is going to go into that antiquated panic mode they always go into when they're trying to pop the rating for one night. And I really think they need to avoid that at all costs this time. I'm not saying you shouldn't have the legends there. Yeah, I'm not saying you shouldn't use some of the veterans to do angles on those shows. But if they are going to use them, it needs to be done sparingly, and it needs to also lead to something more than just a one-off angle. Right now, they've got Brock Lesnar versus Kofi Kingston for the WWE title announced for that show. That's a great match to have. Brock's a top star for them, but we also know that he'll be involved in a long-term program for WWE in their title picture. Plus, with the speculation going around that Brock will end up on SmackDown permanently in their upcoming draft, it might give people an incentive to watch and see what Brock does on SmackDown, especially if he wins the championship, which is more than likely going to happen. Yeah, granted, that all depends on if he just disappears after winning the belt and they go right back to business as usual without having a primary champion on their show every week. But yeah, maybe they'll keep Brock around more often. Who really knows? But again, here's the problem. That's one thing they have announced for that show right now. And they have a lot of different angles they're shooting right now that I think would be great fits to build up for that SmackDown debut on October 4th. They could do some kind of big blow-off angle with Kevin Owens and Shane McMahon. Wouldn't it be really cool if Owens showed up on the October 2nd NXT, only to show up on the October 4th SmackDown a couple days later with an NXT shirt and, take out Shane just to stick it to him? You could even draft Kevin to NXT and, shoot some vignettes with him invading SmackDown every week, despite being an NXT guy. I think that'd be really sick, and I think it'd be something that the people would get into. If they could do that rumored Rowan and Harper versus Roman Reigns and Daniel Bryan match that people have been talking about. Why put that on the October pay-per-view? First of all, it feels like a TV match on paper. And secondly, if it turns out that the god-awful Roman Reigns, Daniel Bryan, Eric Rowan feud is all leading to Bryan revealing that he was the instigator of the attack all along, and that his babyface turn was just a ruse to throw people off, you could have Bryan turn on Reigns in that tag match, align with Harper and Rowan, and then they could do the Reigns-Bryan blow-off match at Hell in a Cell. Whether or not they do it in a cage is their prerogative, but that was the initial match that they were slated to do when the feud first started. They could do some big title matches for that show. A rematch with Charlotte and Bayley for the SmackDown Women's title. Maybe this time you have Charlotte win the belt in the big moment. A tag title rematch with the New Day and the Revival. I thought they had a great pay-per-view match. I'd love to see them go at it again. If you want to use some of the veterans for that show, you could shoot a bunch of angles with R-Truth in the 24/7 title. I also think you've got to have Vince McMahon out there at some point. Be it for a promo, an angle with Shane, whatever they do. But I don't think the show would be complete without a physical appearance from Vince McMahon in some capacity. There's all kinds of stuff they could do for that show. But notice how, in the context of the ideas I'm bringing up, I'm not really accentuating the usage of the legends. Because the bottom line is, I don't think you really need them. Would they be a help ratings-wise? Yeah, probably. But as a durable strategy to keep people watching, you don't necessarily need them to conserve people's interests. Shooting a few angles with the legends chasing around R-Truth for the 24/7 title is really all you need. Maybe you throw in a talk show skit somewhere in there to engage a current talent with a veteran, but I don't think you need much more than that. After that, it just becomes overkill. I really hope they have something bigger in store than just spamming the Fox debut with a bunch of legends for a one-night-only ratings boost. I'd love to give them the benefit of the doubt, but man, with WWE in 2019, it's so hard to give them initial credit for anything until you really see it firsthand. All right, I think that'll about do it for this week. Covered a decent amount of ground, I thought, and I did it in a relatively short period of time. I thought this video was going to take a lot longer to record. There were a couple news bulletins that I did not mention this week. I guess I should bring them up here just to at least show that I'm engaged with what's going on in the internet community. I heard about the stuff with Kenny Omega. I know he's caused a little bit of an uproar amongst the internet fans. I didn't read too much into it. To me, it just sounds like Omega trying to stir up heat and get under people's skin. Seems like he's already succeeded by that account. There's the stuff going on with Vince McMahon and Cedric Alexander that's still a little hairy in terms of detail. And the whole thing just feels like a case of the right hand not knowing what the left hand is doing. Some sources are saying that Vince is burying Cedric for reasons. Other sources are saying it's not a burial and we don't really know what's going on. I think it's honestly a case of just having to wait and see how it all pans out. I know that's a bit of a cop-out response, but, in this case, I don't really think you have another choice. I also read a little bit about the Big Cass follow-up to the WrestlePro incident from last week. Just to catch everyone up to speed, a report came out last week that Big Cass got into a verbal and physical confrontation at a WrestlePro show in New Jersey over clothing articles. He was very hostile all night. He ended up getting into a shouting contest with Joey Janela. He ended up getting into it with Pat Buck, who now works for WWE as a producer. It was a pretty big scandal from the jump, but apparently Cass has now put out a statement sending his apologies toward Buck, Janela, and the entire WrestlePro staff. And this is taken from the Wrestling Observer site on September 17th, and I am going to read this verbatim just because I don't want to paraphrase what Cass is saying here. I've been very honest with my past struggles, and it has been an ongoing battle. On Saturday night, I obviously let my demons get the better of me, and I ruined an important night for a really great guy in an unfortunate series of events. I've worked incredibly hard to get where I am, and even harder to overcome my ongoing battle with depression, but I will work my absolute hardest to right the wrongs of Saturday night and apologize to Kevin Matthews, Pat Buck, Joey Janela, and the entire WrestlePro locker room and all parties involved from the bottom of my heart. I'm getting help from family and friends as we speak, and will be getting professional help in the near future, and ask all to please respect my privacy in the meantime. When and if I reemerge as a public figure, it will be in good faith, and I hope to inspire those who struggle with the same mental health issues I do to seek the help they need. If Tyson Fury can do it, so can I. Remember, I ain't dead yet, and neither are you. Peace and love, William Patrick Morrissey III. So I definitely sense a lot of remorse with that apology. We all know Cass's history has been very spotty. He's always been a pretty polarizing guy amongst the wrestling fan base, and I know actions speak much louder than words, but based on the content and the message he put out here, I'm really given the impression that Cass is going to look to right the wrongs of his past. So good on him. And with that being said, let me scroll back up to my notes really quick and see if I missed anything. Covered that. Nope, looks like I covered everything I needed to for the week. So, thanks everyone for watching. Again, if you like what you saw here and you want to see more of it in the future, make sure you subscribe. Click that bell icon to keep updated on all FSWR uploads. And also make sure you rate and comment in the video here too. It'd be great to get your feedback on the topics I've covered today. And with that all being said, I will see you all on Friday for the next installment of the FSWR Review Series. Take care.